So, this is video 1 that goes alongside God the Creator for your exam paper. Now, in this section you could be asked to describe or explain what Catholics believe about God the Creator, explain why they believe that God created the world, and then the alternative about why God isn't the creator of the world. Now, if you get asked the question, describe or explain what Catholics believe about God the Creator, for this we're focusing on the 4 omnis. Focus on omnipotent, omnibenevolent, omniscient, and omnipresent. So, if we're thinking about why God is all-powerful, so omnipotent, we're focusing on the fact that he was able to create the world ex nihilo, out of nothing. If we focus on the fact that God is all-knowing, all right, once again, you can link it to the idea that the fact that he created the world ex nihilo, all right, but also the fact that the world works perfectly, the evidence for design, okay, so the laws of nature, the perfect conditions to sustain life, etc. Now, when it comes to the fact that it reveals that God is all-loving. Now, you can link this to a couple of ideas, okay? The first one is the fact that the world has been designed. I mean, the world isn't a dump, all right? You've got sunsets, waterfalls, cliffs, etc. that are beautiful, all right? So it's the idea that God loves us so much, he provided this beautiful world for us. But then it's the idea also that God has made us stewards and given us dominion, more importantly, over the world. So he loves us so much, he's allowed us to rule over and care for the world. Okay, and that idea comes from Genesis. The fact that God is omnipresent, all right, so imagine that God's fingerprints, if you want, are all over the world, all right, the fact he created it, and that he created us, and he dwells within us, it helps us to understand that if we believe that God is the creator of the world, that he's all around us, and we can experience him in lots of different ways. Now, if you get asked to explain why Catholics believe that God created the world, you've got 2 options here. You can focus your answers on the evidence. Catholics believe that God created the world because it's in the Bible, because there's evidence of design, because there's evidence of causation, because it says so in the creed. Okay, so you can do paragraphs based around those. Obviously, when you're talking about the Bible, the evidence that you're going to use is the creation story. If you're talking about design, you're going to talk about DNA, planned evolution. You're going to talk about a variety of different ideas. The fact that the laws of science, etc., right? Causation, you're going to say about the fact that everything in our world has been caused. All right, and so therefore it suggests that our world itself has been caused, that all life has a cause. So I was caused by my parents, they were caused by their parents, and this has got to have a first cause, and that is God. Okay, so you can use that as your evidence. And when it comes to the creed, really simple for remembering your evidence. We believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, the creator of heaven and earth. I mean, that's a pretty straightforward one. The other option you've got is, when it's explained why Catholics believe that God created the world, that you can focus once again on the omnis. So you would say that Catholics believe that God created the world as it reveals his omnipotence. This is because Genesis teaches that he was able to create the world out of nothing. And then the impact on your life is the fact that, well, if God is all-powerful, helps Catholics to believe that anything is possible with God. The other sort of thing you can look at all the omnis, all right, as your points for these paragraphs, but the next one that's in the revision guide is focused on the omnibenevolence and the fact that we've all been made in God's image, the fact he designed this beautiful world for us, the fact he's made us stewards of the world, give us dominion to, use your quotation, to rule over, okay, to rule over all the creatures. Now, the result of that, the impact of that, right, is that if God loves us, okay, then we should reciprocate that love to him. All right, so that's the impact it has on our lives of Catholics. We show love to God. It helps reinforce the idea that is the most important thing that we do in our lives, is to love thy God. Now, obviously, there are people who don't believe that God is the creator of the world, and the 2 best areas to explore for this would be, number 1, all right, about the fact there is an alternative explanation for the universe, and the second one is the alternative explanation for life. So, if we're looking at it's called the alternative explanation for the creation of the universe, you're talking about the Big Bang. Now, the impact of that is that, the evidence for this is obviously that the world was created as a result of the Big Bang, all right, and there's no place for God in that. So therefore, this would lead to some people being atheist, okay, because they don't see God's role in the creation of the world. Similar idea when it comes to evolution, all right. Now, as Catholics, we know that the creation story isn't isn't meant as a sort of a how-to guide on how to create the world and create human being life, okay? But what some would say, so some atheists and others, that they would say that God didn't create human beings, and in fact it is a result of evolution. And in that, right, that it isn't to do with God. Instead, it's just to do with the fact that human beings have spawned from, have evolved from natural selection, okay, survival of the fittest. So once again, that sort of contradicts, if you want, that contradicts the creation story. So as a result of that, that is why many people believe in the idea, it was called in the theory of evolution, and then that leads then to some people saying that God doesn't exist.